Alright guys, we're in my shack. Welcome to video number 2 for the Explorer. The portable heavy duty carbon mast, otherwise known as the POTA 33, but this one is the heavy. It is a little bit longer. It collapses down to 27 inches. It weighs a little bit more. This one's 2.05 pounds. It's still 33 feet extended, or 10 meters. But it is much larger in diameter for your mast extension sections. Wow, that was rough. Let me get my paper towels out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in this video kind of how I get all my guy lines ready on my masts. I don't really show me using my spider beam a lot because it's large and it's very, very, very not worth the effort with how unstable it is. It is 40 feet, and it only gets me about 22 feet in the air. That's how far it bends over at the tip. And that's with 16 gauge speaker wire, so not great. So one of the things I do is I get a hose clamp or a band clamp, and I take heat shrink tubing, and I will actually shrink it around the band clamp, but that's not before I take my band clamp and I wrap it up, and I figure out exactly how big I need it. And that way I know how much heat shrink tubing I need. So it needs to come out to about here. So what I'll do is I will add more heat shrink to cover to this line that I just made. And then I'll go ahead and thread it back in. I'll screw it almost tight. I'll heat shrink everything taut. As you can see, this isn't shrunk yet. And then once I have it on and taut, I will slide it over, tighten it down-ish, make sure everything lines up good, and then I'll cut one more small piece for here, and that way I can cover this up and help protect this just a little bit more. And then Bob's your uncle. I'm in there like swimwear, man. I'll get my paracord out and I'll make my 3 loops, and I'll attach those, and that way I can have them at 120 degrees. And all I have to do is run my guy lines through it, and I'm done. I'm not going to make you watch me do this. And then cut it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and shrink this first piece right here with the heat gun. And then I will slide the second piece on to there. I'll get that shrunk, and then I'll tighten everything up. Alright guys, got my band clamp on. Not tight yet because I still have to lace through my paracord for my guy lines to hook into. But as you can see, I have all this extra tail that I will not need. So I'm just going to take some snips, cut it off. This is going to be ridiculously sharp. So once it's done, I'm going to probably file that down just to make sure I don't gouge myself. So now we got to get some paracord loops, and I'll show you how I do those. Give me 2 seconds. Alright, so this is what I do for mine. This loop is my thumb width. That's how I measure them. And it's just an overhand knot. You grab a little bite. I'll show you how I do it without making it pretty. But you grab a little bite like this, and you literally just flop it over, go behind it, and then you come back through it right there in the middle. And then once I can get my thumb in it, about like that, I tighten everything down. And now they're roughly the same size. Cut them, burn the ends, and in not being precise in how long I cut it and then try and fight it, I'm going to waste a total of, what's that, 1.5 inches of paracord. And to me, that not having the headache of trying to fight all this stuff precisely is worth 1.5 inches. So my wife might disagree. And then you just kind of burn the ends, that way they don't fray. Don't forget to turn it off. Boom. And now I have one more to make, and then I have to take my hose clamp off. I'll lace those on there, tighten everything up. I'm not going to make you watch that part, but then once I get them on there and I start to tighten it up, I'll come back. All right, so here we go. There's 1, 2, 3, and all of them are about the same size. I even made a 4th. I didn't like how tight that one was. That was actually the first one I made. I didn't like that. And guys, no joke, there's my waste of paracord. So for me, again, it's not worth it to fight it, to have precisely cut stuff when that much paracord costs a penny. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this band clamp off, or hose clamp. I'm going to fit these 3 bad boys on there. And if you want to work a little bit smarter, go ahead and get them in rough position. That way you're not fighting tooth and nail with them. And then we just tighten the band clamp back up. Boom. And now we will try and get these in their final resting point. Remember, you want 3 equal distances away from each other. That looks pretty close to it. And then I'm going to point all of mine down. And the reason I wanted to do my loops this small, hold on, I'm going to get a driver instead of that. Alright, so like I was saying, for me, the reason I wanted these loops so small is with me keeping it in my, well, I used to keep it in my toolbox, now I'm keeping it in my drawer system all the time, pulling it in and out, trying to actually get it and retrieve it, it's less stuff to get snagged on. Alright, so that looked like I was wrenching on it pretty hard. I wasn't. I just had to collapse this stuff, that way it was actually taut. So now it's there. And this is roughly, if you look at it pulling, these 3 will pull and roughly equal. Pretty daggone close anyway to being perfectly equal. So that'll give me about 120 degrees between each one, which is what I wanted. So that works out great. Now I'm just going to snip this again, and that way it doesn't bite me, because you can see that's pretty daggone sharp too. So I'm going to snip it and then probably snip the corners off. or I'm just going to flare the corners up more to make it more dangerous. One of the two of those is going to be true. I'll let y'all judge which one it is yourselves. All right. Let me get some pliers and then a file. For any of y'all that have teenage children, how do you deal with them stealing your tools and not putting them back in the right spot? That's the problem I have with it. The not going back in the proper spot. Oh, I'm going to pause this. So I'm just going to file this down. That's injury prevention. Not going to make you listen to this. All right, so there it is. Now we'll go outside and set it up the first time. All right, I lied. I figured it would be easier to show you how I do my guy lines in here. So I do the exact same loop again. This one, I don't care how big or small it is. I actually shoot for smaller. Because all that's going to happen with this one, first things first, let me cough. Okay, I coughed. So all I do with this one, this will actually go to the mast itself. And I will stick this end of it through, and now it'll loop around the mast like that in a girth hitch. And then what I'll do is I'll come around my anchor point, and for those of y'all that don't know what a tension hitch is, you go over, you wrap it down below it, and then you come above your circle, and then you wrap once above it. And what happens when you tighten this, it looks like this, but now I can make this longer, and it holds. If this knot is actually tight. And then if I need it longer, I can make it longer, and it holds. So that's it. So now, if you make this just the right size, you can leave your loop, your tension loop made up, and you can fish everything back through there, around there, and ta-da. And then you don't have to keep your guy wires on it, because for me, again, this is nothing more than something to get snagged in my toolbox or wherever I'm storing it. To measure how long your guy lines need to be, 45-degree angle is optimal. Remember, it's 27 inches. Mine's down to about 24 inches, maybe 25 inches. So that means 25 inches away from the mast also. And then to figure out what that degree is, it's a 45 degree, so that, you know, whatever that maths to, what's that, like 130%? So it's going to be like a 40-inch spread, maybe, tops. So whatever. So, but I made my loops really long. They're 6-foot loops, guy lines, knowing I was going to put a tension hitch in it. And the reason I did that is, what happens if you have a rock and you can't get it but so long? Well, now I can tighten it all the way. Or what happens if I'm barely in gravel but I need it a little bit longer? I pull it, and now I have all of that. So just gives me a little more flexibility. All right, guys. I'm going to tie these other ones up, and I'll show you what's going on outside. All right, guys, so there's the whole setup. 3 cheesy little tent stakes. I'm in my side yard, so I know the soil is good. I've got great soil, actually. So, again, I'm going to show you how I lace everything through. There's my tension side. And this side goes on the mast. So I take it, fish it through. Oh, that tension knot's not going to hold. Let me tighten that up before I end up in a jammed up jelly tight situation. All right. And that's it. That's how it'll pull. Boom shakalaka. Remember, the wide base is the foot. It's even rubberized. So now what I do is I start with 1 point, guide out, and I'll just use this here short one. All right. So set 2 lines up. And then once you set 2 lines up, you kind of lean it up. And then you place your 3rd one in place. So I can see that these 2 need to pull off at about this angle. One of them's coming back here. And now for this one, you can pick it up. And now if you need to do any fine tuning with it, you can. Ta-da. It's that easy to set it up once you leave your band clamp on. Now to extend it, pull the cap off, foam insert, and twist, and twist, and twist. All right, that's all I'm going to raise. Let me come move the camera for a better shot. Guys, as I'm raising this, I am more and more impressed with the rigidity of it and how light it is. This is truthfully the first time I've raised it. Holy crap. And there's like 0 wobble. I don't know how much of that's coming through. I don't have a load on it yet, meaning I don't have a wire or anything. Guys, that is way up there. It's windy today. I mean, look at those flags. Look, that pine tree is about 55 feet tall and it's moving in the wind. Not that. Holy crap. I mean, it's barely wiggling. But again, down here at the base, look how solid the base looks. Hey guys, that was the video on what I do for my mast to get my mast in the air. Remember, masts in severe wind, like this, because it's blowing about 20 miles an hour, gusting to 30 at the house. Not the right time to use a mast unless you guy it out all the way. I'm not ashamed. Y'all know me. That's not an electrical line or a piece of coax. We had a hard gust come through, probably about 40 miles an hour, and it just fell over. Luckily, I was able to catch it and then put it on the ground. There's nothing you're going to do for that unless you guy it out at the top. You can 3D print some stuff. Hopefully, I'll have all that on my website soon. Hopefully, my website will be live soon. And you'll be able to, I'll have different dimensions for guy rings, such as. And then we'll be able to guy that out too. But anyway, I'm Justin, K3EE. I hope I taught you a different way to use a mast, a simple, easy way with 3 guy wires and a hose clamp, and then a little bit of paracord. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments how much you use mast, whether or not you have them, if they interest you. Congrats to Gigaparts and KMRD. This thing is amazing. I cannot wait to start stretching wire across this thing. I'm going on a 5-part POTA rove next week. Guaranteed I'm using this at least one of them. This thing's awesome. Super light, super convenient. Again, don't forget, if your subscriptions are hidden in your YouTube profile, I can't see you to give you a free antenna. The first 1,000 people, I'm picking on the 15th. Make sure you release it. Right now, only 349, 350 of my subscribers can I see. And some of those are new, and they were past the 1,000 mark. So change it. That way I can see who you are. Justin, K3EE. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Later.